Not all students excel within the classroom, yet many find self-confidence and individual success in athletics or other extracurricular activities and organizations. How important do you feel extracurricular activities have become within the educational experience, and how would you best utilize your seat on the school board to impact these activities?
I think it's a very important part, and I'm not just talking sports. And I love sports. I'm more sports-oriented than my kids probably. But that doesn't make the school. And I'm going to use an example, and it's the only thing I can think of real quick, is my son was very active in the wonderful program we have here, which is NEDC, and they did great things. They won national championships, but what it's done to him, and it's an extra activity, it brought him out of his shell, because he's such a quiet, reserved child, and it's done that to him, so I know it's done it to others, but it's also helped him in the future where he's gone, what his career orientation is right now, he's able to use what he's learned from high school, use what he's learned from doing that and being involved in that to succeed in college, and I think that's what we're here for. Whether it's sports, whether it's music, debate, whatever, we have to give our kids the best they can to be successful in the future.
I agree that extracurricular activities are a very important part of the overall educational experience. There have been countless studies done that show the benefits of extracurricular activities in providing a well-rounded education. And as Mary said, it encompasses so much more than just sports. Gives kids a chance to feel a sense of belonging, so much more than they can get from just the classroom experience. It gives kids opportunities to explore interests in a safe environment. As a board member, I would do what I can to support a variety of extracurricular activities. I think that's wonderful, and we need to provide that for our children.
Extracurricular activities are immensely important in school districts. As some students have noted, don't excel in the classroom. They find a niche doing something else outside, whether it be Mr. Queen's group that recently went to Washington and participated in the conference, or the debate clubs, and obviously sports. The band group, we're in a great school district where we haven't had to make those cuts as a community. I think it's important that we keep those as a priority on our checklist, but also make sure that we are treating them all equally. While I understand not all of them are revenue generators, they all serve a purpose, and they all help a student somewhere in the school district. And to make sure that we're being mindful of individual rights and equity, it's important to make sure that they all have the same opportunities, where if we're not charging one group to attend an event, but yet we have to make the other ones pay their fee, it might be disadvantageous to some of the families to pay those things. So if I was elected to school board, it'd be something that I would want to focus on, is that we're treating those equally and fairly across the board.
Again, I can echo some comments of the other candidates, especially Rob's comments. I think sports within our district are important. I think it's very important to supplement the education that we offer our kids. I always think that though it should not be a priority, education must come first. That also goes on the financial end of things. I know a lot of people in our district watch what they consider to be a lot of expenditures go towards our sporting programs. I know that's very important, and I want to see it continue. I definitely don't want to cut back, but I want to see equitable distribution and proper priority based and given to other things such as music and the arts and special education. Make sure everything has the proper weight. That's all I have. Thank you.
The school district is getting ready to open a new elementary school this fall and a new middle school next year, as well as making many improvements to existing facilities. These were all made possible by passing a bond issue last year. Without disclosing how you personally voted, what do you feel is the single greatest strength and single greatest challenge the school board may face in the next few years as a result of this bond issue?
Focusing on the district's strengths, the staff, it comes to mind, top of mind. District's full of talented, passionate educators. So as we look to fill these new buildings with teachers and administrators, I think that's going to be very important to make sure that we select the best talent that we can get and continue to offer the wonderful programs that we have and a great educational opportunity for the children who get to attend those new schools. As for challenges, not necessarily related to those new buildings specifically, but the budget is always going to be a challenge working with the school district. The board is going to be continually faced with trying to balance the need for continuing improvement and to continue to provide a high level of education for our children with the limited resources that we have. About it, as well as continuing to manage in the growing community.
The greatest strength, our facilities are great. As we build new schools, improve the ones we have, those are things that are going to draw people into the community. The challenges we're going to face in the next few years, we have a huge logistics park being built outside of town. Our population is going to increase. Our class numbers are already high. We face declining revenues. Hopefully that'll turn around, but nobody knows. I think that's going to be our challenge, though, is filling that building with teachers and ensuring that we're able to continue to pay our staff competitively with the other school districts in the area and provide the resources needed to put people in those buildings. I think that's a fact we're all going to face. I think it's something that's not unique to this school district alone. I think other school districts experience this. Some school districts are closing buildings. Here in Johnson County over the last year. It's a true issue that we're going to have to face, and that's going to be the biggest challenge as to what here at the school district we're willing to forego to make sure that we have the appropriate staffing levels in place in those classrooms so that we can reduce the number of students in the rooms.
I think one of the strengths that this district has, and it was reflected in the bond vote, was we will put schools and education first. That was the largest part of the bond, regardless how anybody voted. That was things that were needed, and our district stood up and took care of that. I think the challenge will be, even as part of that bond, showed a large amount of money, at least is perceived to be put towards our athletic programs. The challenge will be to show continued necessity to continue to have the dollar amounts that we throw towards those. Again, not that I want to work to defund or do anything to decrease or lessen our accomplishments that we've already attained, but I think that that'll be a challenge to show that where that stands as opposed to education and our teachers.
I think our strengths can also be our challenges. I'm just sitting here thinking our strength is our teachers, but it's also going to be a challenge to be able to maintain them and keep them, and our schools. We have to retain our quality of schools and maintain that. We have to focus on getting the schools that we've started open. I think that's a big challenge. We have to do it within our budget. We have to work on maintaining our technology, changing it. Technology is always changing. I think that's a big challenge in the future, is how do we stay up with technology? We have to focus on our kids. That's our strength. That's a challenge. We have to make sure that our kids come first, and what it takes is what we have to do.
Okay. School funding is a hot topic in Topeka right now. Based on your current level of understanding of our school district's finances as of today, do you feel we need to reduce expenses or increase revenues? And specifically, how would you propose this be accomplished? Again, school funding is a hot topic in Topeka right now. Based on your current level of understanding of our school district finances as of today, Do you feel we need to reduce expenses or increase revenues? And specifically, how would you propose this be accomplished?
It is a real issue. The state doesn't want to continue to fund at the levels that were kind of set aside in law. As far as do we increase revenues or do we decrease spending first? I think everybody's going to want to decrease spending first at this time. In one way, shape, or form, we're going to have to take a hard look at salaries across the board. Our teaching staff, we already know that they haven't seen raises in a few years. That's not really an option. They are our single most important resource. We have to make sure those are funded. Other areas we might be able to cut back in range from recently the school district in place some rules for facility usage to try and recoup some costs that we in the past have let them go out for free. I think those kind of avenues and those tactics are going to be the way that we weather this storm so we can get those funding levels back out. And for here in the community, we're going to start taking a hard look at our city councils and assuring that we're attracting business and not rooftops. We cannot continue to fund our school districts, our community, based on the rooftops. It has been proven time and time again, it does not work.
I think regardless how anybody feels about the revenues decreasing, the state level of funding, we have to deal with what we have to deal with. The Board of Education, especially local boards, can only control so much. Whatever money comes in, that's what we have. Like Rob said, we're going to have to tackle spending in one way, shape, or another. One big way we can get started with that is by starting a legislative audit that will compare us. That's a program run by the state. It's not additional cost. It will compare us to other districts similarly, and it will make recommendations to us. We can choose to take those recommendations and implement some, or we can choose to ignore after looking at them. So I think that's a good start, and that's where I would start.
The school's just like any other business. I think yearly, throughout the year, you need to look at expenses, make sure they're in line. You need to look at your revenue and see what's coming in and see where, what it's going to be, where can you increase or decrease whichever one. I think it's really important to work with the cities of Edgerton, the city of Gardner. That's our community. We need to attract businesses here. We need to attract families here. That helps the tax base. That increases our revenue. That brings kids in, of course. But it's those things that we can work together with the cities. I think that's very beneficial, and it'll go a long way with the revenue coming in and maintaining the great schools that we have, but also keeping maybe expenses down.
Yes, as we stated, the major challenge facing the board and the district is basically how do we do more with less? It's a magic question. With the vast majority of the budget being allocated towards salaries, there really is very little discretionary funds left over after that. So, being mindful of the expenditures is critical. We need to find ways to be creative in finding cost savings, do some out-of-the-box thinking. As a member of the Finance Committee, been able to be a part of a couple of those conversations. The district has renegotiated some insurance contracts and found some significant savings there. As well, from a workman's comp standpoint, has also looked at the property coverage and got a lot of respect for Jeremy in the finance office, doing some out-of-the-box thinking and finding some cost savings for us right now. So continuing to do that, watch where we're spending our money and making sure that our children's education is at top of mind and making sure that those decisions do not jeopardize their education.
Okay. Every resident is a shareholder in the success of our school district. What additional investment of time or talents have you personally made or are committed to making in the future to further advance the success of our school district?
I think some of the efforts that I would start with would be kind of crossing the line between transparency and accessibility. I would start with putting much better emphasis on the information available publicly on our website and other means that USD 231 patrons can basically have certain amounts of information available to them in the snap of the finger. There shouldn't have to be prying back the layers or sending back multiple emails and phone calls, trying to meet with certain people to gain access to information that really shouldn't require that much digging. So that I think that would be a good start to help our district out.
Can you repeat that one more time? Because I think I might have misunderstood it.
Every resident is a shareholder in the success of our school district. What additional investment of time or talents have you personally made or are committed to making in the future to further advance the success of our school district?
Okay. I've been involved back with the school, like since I've been here, but graduated here, but since my kids got in school, started school, I've been in, PTOs all the way through. I'm also on site council at every school that they've been on. I sat on a boundary committee once with one of the schools when they were opening, and I'm really involved with the school, with the community. I think it's very important. As my kids are growing, it's allowing me a little bit more flexibility and a little bit more time to stay involved. I think it's important, and I think those talents, working at the bank and doing things like that are going to help me fulfill, hopefully, the role as a school board member.
As I stated in my opening comments, I've always taken an active role in my children's education, been active on site council, been on the Wheat Ridge Site Council for the last 6 years. I'm currently the president of that organization, as well as the second year on the high school site council, and currently the vice president there. A couple years ago, I did get asked to sit on the bond committee, and then currently on the finance committee with the district. I sit here before you absolutely with the desire to continue to serve this community as a board member. And no matter what side of the desk I'm sitting on, I'm going to continue to be involved in this school district. I'm going to continue to care, and I'm going to continue to give of myself every opportunity I have.
For me, some of the things I've done in the past, since last May, I've been attending all the school board meetings that I can when I'm at work. I've missed a handful, maybe 2 or 3. I think it's important if you're going to run for an elected position, you have a good idea of what's going on before you get into it. Going to a couple and then deciding to run, probably the best way to go. You need to understand the challenges they face, to be informed on what they're doing. One of the most recent things I was involved with at the school district was a redistricting committee for the elementary school and the middle school. And also, I didn't decide to run on a whim. This was leading up to a 4 or 5 year project for me. As I was at work one day, I thought, what else can I do to improve myself and maybe give back to the community? I decided to obtain my master's in public administration, which I'm happy to say I should complete this spring. I think that background in education is a strong commitment, something I'm willing to share with the community and with the board members as to how that might help us here at the school district to make better decisions and move forward as we try to sustain our current growth and success that the school district has achieved.
Okay, final question. And I've received several of these tonight, so in summary, I'm condensing these. But the question said, why should I, or I think we'll restate it, why should they trust you to make decisions about education? Why should they trust you to make decisions about education?
I would like to think that my experience, I have the best interest. I feel, I hope you feel too, that I have the kids best interest at heart in my decisions. The teachers, I believe in this. I believe in this school. I'm very proud of it. And trust me, I can say trust me, but I really truly do. I think this is the greatest school around, and I only want it to get better. And I believe that.
As a member of this community and a mother of 3, I have a vested interest in the success of this school district. There's no reason I would have to jeopardize that. In addition, I've built a career on being honest and trustworthy, and I'm not going to change that behavior if I have the opportunity to serve this community on the board.
I also have 2 children in this school district, have a strong vested interest in making decisions about their education and how it affects their lives. I have a stepdaughter who I've helped raise, pushed her to achieve higher education. I think it's important that they have that good basis of education that we learn in the preschools, high school, and middle school. As I mentioned in one of my articles, it's not just about education, but it's also about things such as the Nike Promise, teaching people how to be good citizens and good stewards. My daughter will be the 4th generation of our family to attend this school district and graduate from here. My commitment can be no stronger towards any other thing than seeing to the success of their education. And plus the guys at the fire station, if I was to do something untrustworthy, they'd probably beat me with a hose. And they all live here in the community too.
Why should I be trusted to be on the Board of Education? Like the other candidates, I also have a vested interest with kids in schools. I'm involved with the schools at minimum on a weekly basis. Involved in the Watchdog Dads program, involved in the Knowledge Navigators program, reading to elementary kids, involved with PTOs and fundraising and all that comes with that. On a personal level, as a software engineer for a telecommunications company, I'm a logical thinker. I'm very rational. I listen well and put everything on the table and solve problems. I'm not a big get behind a podium and speak and make it sound smooth and make you think you trust me. That's how I am, and hopefully that'll help the school board if I do.